A South Korean passenger plane crashed while landing at an airport here in the country this past Sunday, killing all but 2 of the 181 people on board. We have more on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Monday, December 30th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sunhee. A Jeju Air flight arriving from Bangkok skidded down the runway at Muan International Airport in southern Korea a little after 9 Sunday morning before crashing into a concrete barrier and bursting into flames. For more on this tragic event, I have Chloe Borgnon with France 24 live on the line. Chloe, thank you for making time.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I also have Steven Borowiec with Nikkei Asia with us as well. Steven, welcome back.
Nice to be here, thank you.
Right, Chloe, do walk us through the details of the plane crash then.
Yeah, sure. So the plane crash happened yesterday, Friday the 29th, a little bit after 9 a.m. So the plane tried to make an emergency landing at Muan International Airport. Muan is located on the southwest, a bit of nearly 300 kilometers south of Seoul. So the Boeing from Jeju Air was trying to land. Jeju Air is the first Korean low-cost company that was founded in 2005. So the plane was coming from Bangkok in Thailand and was landing in Muan. It's interesting to know that it was a new road that had been opened only from the 8th of December. And I was aiming at developing the airport of Muan. It was one of the first time in 17 years that the airport was having international road for, like continuous international road that would have more than one rotation per week. So on board of the plane, there was 181 people. As you said, 179 of them lost their lives in the crash. There were only 2 survivors that were rescued from the detached tail section of the aircraft. So the 2 survivors are Jeju Air cabin staff, one man in his 30s and one woman 25 years old. Both are being treated at the hospital at the moment, and they've been since they were rescued yesterday morning.
Right, indeed. Now, Steven, I believe the cause of the crash has yet to be confirmed, but what has been shared thus far, and what are pundits saying about the possible cause of this deadly crash?
Well, I'd like to just preface my answer by saying that we don't have any kind of official word on this, and investigators have said that the full process of investigating this could take as long as 6 months. And so there is a long process ahead of digging in, analyzing flight records, analyzing the state of the plane, and trying to figure out all of the details here. So we don't really, we are not really in any place to say anything definitive, but I would just say, having read up on and reported on this a lot over the past 36 hours or so, just said that there seem to be 2 things that I think warrant being mentioned, one of which is the possibility that there was a bird, what's called a bird strike in aviation parlance, that it's possible that as this plane was coming in, it came into contact with a bird or perhaps a flock of birds, and one of the birds got lodged in the engine and thereby prevented it from working properly. Muan Airport is located on the southwestern coast, or near the southwestern coast of South Korea, which is a spot that attracts a lot of migratory birds. There are mudflats like all along the western coast of the country, and a lot of birds set up there for sometimes extended periods. So that's definitely a possibility, but I think some pundits have said that in itself is perhaps not a complete explanation. That might explain why an engine failed or why the vessel had some other kinds of problems, but it perhaps doesn't explain also why the landing gear didn't deploy properly or a number of other things. Another possibility of something else that we're hearing about is just questions over how well maintained this aircraft may have been. I read one aviation expert quoted in a media report as saying that a lot of aviation accidents are really the outcome of poor maintenance, of things not working properly because they haven't been perhaps had parts replaced or been properly managed in whatever way. Just this morning, another Jeju Air flight returned to Gimpo Airport near Seoul, its airport of origin, because of a mechanical problem. And so, again, I want to just emphasize that none of this has been borne out by investigation yet. So we're not saying that this is, absolutely what happened. But I think the kind of two threads that observers of this case are following right now is the possibility of an airstrike and, again, the question of maintenance.
Right, indeed. And in the meantime, Chloe, the stories of loss are heartbreaking, with many of the passengers being family members returning from end-of-year trips to Bangkok. What more, Chloe, can you tell us?
Yeah, so the journalists that are on site have been describing like very heartbreaking scenes, especially so in Muan Airport terminal, where the family of the Borowiec family have been gathering since yesterday. So they were, for example, explaining that when the firefighters came to do one report, saying that according to them, apart from the two people that got rescued, everyone else was presumed dead. They say that really it was heartbreaking to see the reaction of the families that were there waiting to get some news about their loved ones. They were saying that people were asking for confirmation, asking why it happened. It's true that we got the news a bit later on that most of the people on the plane were actually family members coming back from a trip to Thailand for Christmas season. And so that's the testimonies that we're getting, is that a lot of the Borowiec family members have actually lost a few members of the family at the same time. There was also some reports about the frustration from the family regarding the time taken to give them information. So they were at first speaking about general information, even access to the site itself because of security reasons, but they were also now saying that it has been taking time to get information and identification of the death. But it's kind of a normal process. But they're like BBC journalists, they were inside the terminal and they were giving information about all the people are actually being accommodated, the families. So they were saying that inside the terminal of Muan Airport, they've been setting up, like the official government and Red Cross have been putting up some privacy tents to allow the family to have some private time together. Family have been given some wool blankets to keep warm or to sit on them, to try to find places to be a bit more private. And they also say that they were yesterday, at least until yesterday, they were briefing every half hour for the families and to try to get the most information to them possible. This is also something that the acting president, Choi Sang-mok, said today when he spoke about the fact that he wanted the investigation to be thorough. He also said that he wanted the families to get the information as soon as possible, as quickly as possible.
Right, those remarks shared by Acting President Choi Sang-mok at the Memorial Center in Muan. Steven, what has been the response from the international community to this tragedy here in Korea?
It's been a lot of expressing of condolences and sadness. I mean, this is an unambiguously tragic scene that we witnessed, this aircraft full of people crashing. So in such a, if anyone who's seen the video of the crash can attest, it's a really quite shocking event that took place. And so as this news and as this footage has traveled around the globe, I think people in positions of responsibility in countries all over the world are just doing the kind of basic human thing and expressing their condolences and expressing the sense of shared sadness and shared anguish that they're feeling. And we've heard from U.S. President Joe Biden. I believe Chinese leader Xi Jinping conveyed his condolences. The leaders of France, Germany, Malaysia. This is the kind of thing, this is the kind of tragedy that I think, for all of the division and all of the differences that we see among different countries and competing factions within countries, this is the kind of thing that really ought to bring people together and not to leave people feeling like this is a very just human loss, and the only real right or decent thing to do is just express condolences and express a sense of solidarity that this kind of thing can happen anywhere. And we, just recently there was I think it was just a few days ago, there was airplane accident that happened in Kazakhstan. And so, we see these things pop up around the world. And while it's beyond most people to have any kind of direct involvement or to assist directly, the least that you can do is express a kind of solidarity for the people who are directly affected.
Right, a very painful period, of course. Chloe, Sunday's plane crash, it's looking to be Korea's worst in decades. Could you explain this for us? And also, what do we know about the Boeing 737 plane?
Yeah, so yesterday's crash was the worst aerial crash on the South Korean territory. Then if we speak about aerial catastrophes for South Korea and more in general, we have to go back to 1997 and the crash in Guam from Korean Air that killed 229 of the 254 people that were on board. This is also to be noted that this is the first fatal crash for Jeju Air, like for one of the Jeju Air planes. Regarding now the Boeing itself, so the type of plane is a Boeing 737 and specifically 800 then. This is a plane that was involved in the incident of Sunday, but this specific plane was already in another incident, and it's been reported that he had a problem on the 27th already. It was supposed to go from Jeju to Beijing, and it stopped in the middle and went to Incheon Airport. So according to the New York Times, they are saying that Incheon International Airport Police Corps say that the diversion on the 27th was caused by a medical emergency, not a technical emergency. But so it's interesting to note that, because yesterday has been talked about that plane specifically. Then if we go more on the Boeing 737 series, this is a kind of Boeing plane that's been widely used mostly by low-cost companies. It's been said that there is actually around 4,400 of this plane that are in circulation, and they are considered very safe, that they are considered to have good safety records. But it's interesting to see that the Korean government has been asking to go through a thorough evaluation of all those planes that are currently in South Korea. So it say that it's about 100 planes that are currently in South Korea, and to check them all, knowing especially like the Jeju Air float is 39 out of 41 planes are this kind of plane.
Right, Steven, this tragedy has placed quite a bit of attention, spotlight that is, on acting President Choi Sang-mok's leadership, as it took place just 2 days after his designation. Now, he was at the site of the tragedy yesterday, that is Sunday, and he was there today as well. What has he been saying?
He's been pledging to lead the kind of central disaster response that's been set up in the government to oversee the investigation and various kinds of restitutive measures and mourning measures throughout the country. He's designated a period of 7 days of official national mourning, and I believe he's announced plans to set up memorial altars in a total of 17 cities around the country, so that people, even who are not located close to where the tragedy took place, can go and express their condolences and lay a flower and express their kind of solidarity with the victims in that way. This is definitely a big test for him, in that he'd only been in the job for a couple of days. But I think as of now, probably what he's doing is, listening to the opinions of disaster experts, listening to the opinions of aviation experts, and just trying to lead as best he can, trying to set a strong example.
Right. Chloe, speaking about the acting president, some pundits claim that his handling of this particular tragedy may actually perhaps even shield him from impeachment. Could you explain this for us?
Yeah, so first of all, there were some critics that say that the answer from the government was quite a slow answer considering the crisis. But it's to be noted that currently Choi Sang-mok is in the same time Minister of Finance, acting Prime Minister, and acting President, which is never seen before, never heard before. So it is kind of a hard test for him, but also for the government in general, regarding, as Stephen was saying, the general situation and the crisis that South Korea is going through at the moment. So he has been, before the crash, he has been under pressure from the Democratic Party to nominate 3 judges to the Constitutional Court. But now it's the national mourning period that's been announced that will go until next Saturday. Obviously, this is kind of giving him some time, and his response to the catastrophe and to the crisis itself is going to be looked at. And if he's able to go through this hardship, it might help him a little. But it's interesting to see that even in that moment, for now, and yesterday at least, even in that moment, the unity is not there in the political field. Like the Democrat Party and the People Power Party have been having very separate responses and putting their own crisis committees in place. So this is maybe something that Choi Sang-mok, acting president, has to be taking in account.
Right. And Stephen, President Yoon Suk-yeol, for his part, took to his social platform to share his condolences while defying a third summons for questioning also on Sunday. What is the latest with regard to the investigation into insurrection charges against him, Stephen?
Well, just today, law enforcement officials requested court warrants to detain Yoon as part of their investigation as to whether or not his attempt to impose martial law on December 3rd constitutes the crime of insurrection. Up until now, Yoon has been very resistant to any kind of cooperation with these investigations. He has defied a number of summons, and he has generally stayed very quiet and generally kept a low profile. I therefore was surprised when he took to Facebook yesterday to leave a message of solidarity and condolences. And in his post on Facebook, he said something to the effect of, like, you know, I will be part with the members of the public in getting over this tragedy. I was surprised that he would do really anything to kind of draw attention to himself, even though he was, you know, saying something that was very unobjectionable, very kind of, you know, morally above board. But that's a real question right now, just with state affairs in this very kind of up in the air state. The judicial process as it pertains to Yoon has kind of fallen under the radar a little bit. But this, as we saw today with the request for a warrant to detain Yoon, this is still very much an ongoing concern. And I guess at this point it will kind of hinge on just what kind of legal authority investigators are granted by the courts, if they get a warrant that they have the authority to execute, or if Yoon, you know, has a change of heart and he decides that he wants to step forward and plead his case and be a kind of more active participant in this process.
You're right. And speaking about courts, Chloe, how is the impeachment trial against the president proceeding?
Well, it's going on according to the schedule. So the first hearing was done on Friday. The Constitutional Court said that they would swiftly proceed with President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial because it's quite an emergency. That's the most important task that they have. They already said that the next trial will be on the 3rd of January. So Yoon Suk-yeol was not required to attend on Friday, and he did not appear, but it was kind of expected. So there was his legal representatives were there, his lawyers, and they said that they would dispute the legality of the request for the impeachment trial. Again, that was something that was kind of expected as well. But it's important to note that the Constitutional Court itself is facing unprecedented challenges. First of all, multiple impeachments are going on. So first of President Yoon Suk-yeol, but also of acting president, Prime Minister Ahn Duk-soo. So they're also having another trouble, which is, can they, the Constitutional Court, can they manage with only 6 judges instead of 9? So for now, they have said that they are able to go through the hearings as they should, but regarding the final decision, it will need the 6 judges to be unanimous regarding the impeachment. And so they say that if they can't reach an agreement, they might have to postpone the end of the trial until the next 3 judges are nominated, which is the thing that's kind of not working at the moment. But they have up to 6 months to make that final judgment. So for now, they're still going on through their agenda at quite a fast speed, actually.
Right. Steven, this next question is something that Chloe touched upon earlier, but I'd like a brief response from you. Do you expect some common ground between rival political parties amid this very challenging time of national tragedy and political instability?
I think past examples show that in the immediate wake of a very emotional tragedy like this, there is a kind of rallying effect that members of the public and politicians do kind of come together with a sense of shared purpose of wanting to allay the harm and the emotional damage that's been caused here. But past examples show that that tends not to last very long. After a kind of initial emotional period, they're usually the situation usually devolves into finger pointing and usually devolves into assigning blame. There are past cases that show us that the opposition party will tend to accuse the ruling party of having been somehow complicit in this and of failing to take proper precautions or being kind of a lapse in their administration and, you know, kind of creating room for a tragedy like this to occur. And then maybe the people who are in power accusing the opposition of attempting to take unfair advantage of it and attempting to kind of politicize the victim's suffering. It's a little bit early to say how that might play out, but I think that's what history tells us. The optimistic among us will want to hope that people will continue to maintain fairly unified and wanting to allay whatever suffering we can here, because we can all agree that we've seen too much suffering already. Nobody wants to see a tragedy like this, and the least that we can do at this point is hope to take lessons from it and institute measures and institute changes to the system that might make something like this less likely to reoccur.
Right, and hopefully to find a good path forward then. All right, Steven, as always, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And Chloe, thank you very much for your insights today.
Thank you.
Right, we end our program today with our deepest condolences to the family and friends of those who lost their lives in Sunday's plane crash at Muan International Airport. Our thoughts and prayers are with you.